studio lights were scorching. The cameras rolled live. And in the center of it all, two men, worlds apart, locked eyes across a polished debate stage. Benny Johnson wasn't smiling anymore. His hand tightened around a sheaf of papers, documents, quotes, receipts. Timothée Chalamet sat across from him, Hollywood cool melting into visible panic. The boyish charm, the smirking deflections, it was all gone. Then Benny leaned forward, voice sharp as glass. "You want to lecture America, Timothée? Here's what you said behind the curtain. Roll the clip." Silence, then static. A grainy backstage recording flooded the screen. Timothée's voice, arrogant, mocking, dismissive. The audience gasped. Chalamet's jaw clenched. Benny didn't blink. The internet exploded within seconds. This wasn't a debate anymore. It was a reckoning. And Hollywood had just watched one of its favorite sons fall. Live, raw, and unfiltered. If you love brutal truth, public takedowns, and viral meltdowns, subscribe now. You won't believe what led to this moment. Benny Johnson built his career on confrontation. A former White House correspondent turned conservative firebrand. He's sharp, theatrical, and thrives on chaos. To his followers, he's a cultural crusader. To critics, a provocateur with a mic and a mission. But behind every viral clip is a man hungry for a moment so explosive it echoes for years. Timothée Chalamet didn't choose politics. Politics chose him. The darling of indie cinema, praised for his performances and progressive ideals, he became Hollywood's voice of Gen Z, stylish, sensitive, sincere. But in the real arena, where applause fades and arguments cut deep, performance alone doesn't protect you. Two men, one stage, one wields facts like knives, the other carries ideals like a banner. But only one will leave this broadcast standing. The question is, who's truly prepared for war when the cameras never stop? It began with a headline: Hollywood's political voice to face off against conservative commentator Benny Johnson, live in prime time. The announcement spread like wildfire. A mainstream network, desperate for ratings and cultural relevance, had staged the impossible. A live, unscripted debate between two of the most polarizing figures in America. On one side, Benny Johnson, brash, calculated, armed with stats, sarcasm, and a fan base addicted to his viral monologues. On the other, Timothée Chalamet, art house royalty, soft-spoken, fashion-forward, a walking emblem of youthful idealism. It wasn't supposed to be this dramatic. The producers expected a lively, intellectual exchange, something safe, something marketable. But Benny had other plans. He'd been tracking Timothée's rise for months, studying his interviews, collecting contradictions. Every red carpet quote, every college panel, every whispered remark. To Benny, Timothée wasn't just a celebrity. He was a symbol of everything wrong with performative activism. The night of the debate, the tension was electric. The green room buzzed. Makeup artists touched up cheekbones while producers rehearsed lines about bridging divides. But Benny said little. He just waited, rehearsing nothing. His ammo was already loaded. When the cameras blinked on, the audience roared. The network had drawn millions. Twitter was primed. The hashtags had already started trending before the first words were spoken. The moderator welcomed them. Tonight, we bring together two voices from opposite ends of the American conversation. But no one was really listening. Timothée opened with grace. He talked about empathy, the need for climate action, and the power of storytelling. It was polished, moving even. The crowd leaned in. Then Benny spoke, and the temperature dropped. He didn't just challenge Timothée. He dismantled him, point by point, with piercing precision. Where Timothée offered feelings, Benny countered with headlines. Where Timothée painted hopes, Benny held up receipts. The tension wasn't subtle. Timothée's smile began to crack, but then it happened, midway through the segment. Timothée pushed back. "You're not interested in helping people, Benny," he said. "You're interested in going viral." Gasps, cheers, a quick flash of confidence. The crowd, Hollywood-leaning, liberal, erupted. Benny didn't flinch. He smiled and said 6 words that would ignite the firestorm. "Tell them what you said backstage." A pause. Timothée's eyes darted off camera, confused, then guarded. Benny leaned in, calm, cold. You don't remember? You called them flyover clowns. You laughed about the uneducated voters in Ohio. That wasn't empathy. That was mockery. The moderator intervened. Let's keep this civil. But it was too late. The mood had shifted, and though the clip hadn't aired yet, Benny's trap had been set. Millions watched, unaware they were seconds away from one of the most explosive reveals in live television history. The morning after the broadcast, the internet was already ablaze. Benny exposes Timothée trended within hours. Clips flooded TikTok, each more damning than the last. One zoomed in on Timothée's stunned face as Benny leveled the accusation. Another looped Benny's piercing question. Tell them what you said backstage. No clip of the alleged comment had aired yet, but the doubt had been planted. And in a digital age, suspicion alone is a wildfire. Timothée's team scrambled. A statement was released. Short, defensive, drenched in PR polish. Mr. Chalamet remains committed to compassion and understanding. Any suggestion otherwise is categorically false. But the tone only fueled the fire. Meanwhile, Benny capitalized on every frame. He uploaded behind-the-scenes commentary, went live on Instagram, stitched fan reactions on TikTok. He wasn't just winning the debate, he was winning the narrative. Podcasts jumped in. Conservative outlets hailed it as the moment Hollywood got humbled. Progressive commentators fumbled to defend. Some said it was an ambush, others said Benny was lying. But Timothée's silence was louder than all of them. Then came the memes. One viral post showed a split screen. Left side, Timothée saying, "We need empathy." Right side, Benny saying, "Tell them what you said backstage." Caption, empathy.exe has crashed. It would have been funny if it hadn't been devastating. And yet, for a moment, the story began to shift. A few celebrities tweeted their support for Timothée. A popular singer posted, "Timmy's one of the kindest souls I know. Don't fall for the spin." Another actor chimed in, "We all say stupid things off camera. This takedown culture is exhausting." There was hope. But Benny wasn't finished. 2 nights later, he appeared on a late-night political podcast. The host asked casually, "So, do you actually have the clip?" Benny leaned back, smirked, and replied, "I always bring receipts." The next morning, he dropped it. A leaked backstage video, 35 seconds long, shot from a low angle, grainy. Clearly recorded by someone inside the studio, someone who hadn't been authorized. Timothée's voice, unmistakable. "It's performative, man. These debates are for people who think Ohio matters. Let's give the middle class their circus before we all go back to LA." It was casual, sarcastic, but lethal. The reaction was instant. TikTokers reenacted the line with mock tears. YouTubers filmed hour-long breakdowns. Even major newspapers picked it up with headlines like, "Timothée caught mocking Middle America, backlash grows." His fan base split. Some unfollowed, some defended, but most just disappeared. Silence replaced loyalty. Brand deals paused. Interviews were canceled. He was still famous, still beautiful, but something had cracked. And Benny? He stepped into the role with ruthless elegance. Every podcast, every post, every stream, he pressed the message home. This is the elite. This is how they really see you. It wasn't just about Timothée anymore. It was about what he represented. And Benny was holding up a mirror, one the world couldn't look away from. Hollywood had seen scandals before, but this felt different. This wasn't a paparazzi photo or a whispered rumor. This was on tape. A darling of the industry, caught mocking the very people who made his fame possible. And worse, he had said it not in character, not in a role, but in his own voice. The network went into crisis mode. Producers issued statements claiming no knowledge of the recording. Internal investigations were launched, but the damage was already done. Within 24 hours of the leak, Timothée lost 2 major endorsements. First, a sustainable clothing brand, one he'd helped launch. Their statement was clinical. "We stand for unity and cannot endorse any speech that divides our community." Second, a national coffee chain, known for its progressive image. They pulled his face from their campaign without a single public word. Behind the scenes, agents panicked. PR firms whispered about rebranding. Advisors suggested laying low, disappearing, waiting for the storm to pass. But storms like this don't just pass. They grow. The breaking point came not with another video, but with silence. A high-profile film premiere. Timothée was meant to be the lead. Flashbulbs were prepped. The red carpet was rolled out. He didn't show. Rumors swirled. Some said he was too ashamed. Others claimed his team feared protesters. Then came the final blow. His co-star appeared alone and was asked about the scandal. Her eyes shifted. Her voice faltered. Then she said what no PR team could undo. "I hope he's learning from it. I really do." One line, one dagger, and the world knew. Even his colleagues were stepping back. That same night, Benny went live again. Dressed sharp, calm, no shouting, no gloating, just precision. "I didn't destroy Timothée Chalamet," he said. "He exposed himself. I just held up the microphone." He paused. "But ask yourself, why does it sting so much to see someone like him fall? Maybe because we built him up too high. Maybe because he made it look too easy. But real conviction? It doesn't come with makeup and applause. It comes with risk." The comments flooded in. "Benny's not just right, he's real. Hollywood's mask is slipping. More truth in 30 minutes than a decade of red carpets." By midnight, Benny's clip had been watched 5 million times. But for Timothée, the night stretched long. His fan pages went quiet. His Instagram comments turned off. Paparazzi circled, but he remained unseen. No apology, no explanation, just silence. And in that silence, the public reached its own conclusion. He had been caught, and for the first time in his golden career, he had no script to fall back on. Timothée had always been untouchable. Every misstep was forgiven, every odd comment reframed as artistic. He was the boy who could do no wrong, until now. And as the internet turned cold, the industry turned colder. His silence, once seen as mystery, now read as arrogance. He wasn't offering reflection. He wasn't even trying. The boy who once inspired crowds to chant his name was nowhere to be found when the cameras stopped loving him back. A week after the scandal broke, an invitation arrived for Benny. Prime Panel, a legacy news program known for decades of dignified, middle-ground conversation. The same show that had once hailed Timothée as a generational voice. Now, Benny sat in that same chair, confident, sharp, caffeinated by momentum. The host cleared his throat. "Benny, don't you think you went too far? This wasn't a politician, it was a young actor." Benny didn't miss a beat. "With respect," he said, "if you want the platform, if you want the influence, then you answer to the people. If Timothée wants to shape hearts and minds, then hearts and minds have every right to push back." The host faltered. The audience applauded, and once again, Benny had shifted the spotlight. But behind the scenes, the backlash had gone nuclear. A leaked internal memo from Timothée's agency revealed nervous conversations. Brands were pulling ad campaigns. Studios were reconsidering upcoming projects. Directors who once chased him now ghosted his team. He tried once to respond. A carefully produced video, shot in a sunlit room. Casual sweater, soft piano in the background. He looked directly into the camera. "I never meant to hurt anyone," he said. "That clip, it doesn't reflect my heart." But the damage was too deep. The comments were merciless. "You mocked real people, Timmy. We're not just scenery in your performance. Save the monologue for the Oscars." Too little, too late. The video was taken down within hours. It had backfired. Badly. Then came the walkout. A university had scheduled him to speak at a youth climate summit. Students protested, not because of his stance, but because of his tone. They carried signs, "We want leaders, not actors." Others read, "Midwest deserves respect." It was no longer about politics. It was about dignity. Timothée's fall wasn't loud. It was slow, suffocating. The kind where each hour chips away at what you thought was permanent. The same headlines that once read, "Timothée shines," now asked, "Has Hollywood lost its compass?" And somewhere in a quiet Los Angeles house, the once untouchable icon stared at his phone, scrolling through reminders of a world that had moved on. Not with rage, but with indifference. And in the world of fame, that's the deepest cut of all. Just when the narrative seemed sealed, it cracked. 10 days after the video leak, Benny Johnson posted something unexpected. No headline, no hashtags, just a short, cryptic caption. Sometimes the truth comes with its own mirror. Attached was a voice memo, leaked, unedited. The voice? Benny's, recorded privately after the debate. The context wasn't clear, but the tone was unmistakable. Smug, mocking, and cruel. Give it a few days. These people eat it up. Hollywood villain, conservative truth slinger. It's performance art, man. Let them cry into their oat milk. The backlash was instant. This wasn't righteous anger. It was strategy, entertainment, calculated chaos disguised as conviction. A wave of whiplash hit the same audience that had praised him. Had they been played? Was Benny any different from the actors he condemned? Suddenly, the same influencers who once reposted his takedowns began asking harder questions. Is this about truth or just clicks? Is Benny the hero or just the better actor? Do any of them actually believe what they say? In the middle of it all, a tweet appeared from a verified unknown account. It was simple, just one sentence. Both of them lost something real that night. No one claimed credit for the leak. Some speculated it was an intern, others believed it came from inside Benny's own camp, someone tired of the show. Whatever the truth, the impact was irreversible. Both figures, once symbols of opposing ideologies, now stood exposed. One had mocked the people behind closed doors. The other had manipulated the people in plain sight. Suddenly, the debate wasn't between left and right. It was between real and fake. And for the first time in this entire saga, the public paused, reflected, asked themselves, who are we cheering for and why? Neither man made a statement. Neither man posted for days. And maybe that was the twist all along. When the smoke cleared, the war hadn't been won by truth or by ideology. It had been won by silence. And the question left behind wasn't who was right. It was, what did any of this really cost? The dust had settled, but not on either man's terms. News outlets stopped leading with the scandal. Timothée Chalamet was no longer the face of betrayal, and Benny Johnson was no longer the voice of viral justice. The story faded from headlines, not because it was over, but because the world had already moved on. But in quieter corners, the fallout continued to echo. A well-known journalist penned an op-ed titled, "The Culture War's Collateral Damage, When Performance Replaces Principle." It dissected both figures, not as villains or heroes, but as players in a bigger game, one driven by platforms, monetized outrage, and a hunger for attention, masked as activism. Timothée's Hollywood prospects didn't vanish, but they changed. Studios stopped calling for major roles. Instead, he took a minor part in a quiet indie film, far from red carpets and political messaging. He stopped tweeting, stopped posting. Even paparazzi lost interest. Those who knew him said he'd grown quieter, more distant, not bitter, just sobered. And Benny? The exposure slowed his momentum, but it didn't break him. His followers stayed loyal. His podcast numbers dipped, then stabilized. But the tone shifted. Less fire, more caution. He knew now the danger of recording devices. He knew now what it felt like to almost win and still lose something vital. In one podcast weeks later, he finally addressed the leak. His voice was measured. We live in a time where everyone's watching everyone else, but no one's really looking in the mirror. I messed up. So did he. Maybe we all did. It wasn't an apology, but it was the closest he'd come to one. Online, the culture war raged on, but this story was done. No redemption arc, no climactic speech, just two men, two microphones, and two reputations permanently altered. Public reaction remained split. They both got what they deserved. That's what happens when authenticity is faked. Maybe we should stop turning debates into blood sport. But one thing was certain. No one watched political debates the same way again. No one trusted the charm of a smile or the sting of a soundbite quite as blindly. And beneath all the headlines, the algorithms, and the applause, there remained a quiet truth lingering in the minds of millions. Sometimes, the loudest voices leave behind the deepest silence. In the end, it wasn't about who won the debate. It was about what the debate revealed. Behind every polished answer and viral takedown was a deeper question. What happens when influence outgrows integrity? Timothée Chalamet learned that charm can't cover contempt. Benny Johnson learned that truth without humility becomes performance. And we, the audience, were left to sort through the wreckage. Entertained, yes, but changed. Not every downfall comes with cheers. Sometimes it comes with silence and a mirror. Because in a world of platforms and personas, the real battle isn't between left and right. It's between who we pretend to be and who we really are. If you crave more stories that peel back the curtain and confront what lies beneath, subscribe now. This was just one storm, and the next one is already brewing. This story is fictional and for entertainment purposes only.